Hello, everybody, and good morning. So, yes, today we have an exciting invited talk by Mr. Alper Mermer, and he's going to talk about agile testing. All right. And so I will just give a very quick introduction. I'm going to give the floor to Alper. So essentially, Mr. Alper Mermer works as a software test automation engineer in ARM Limited in Manchester. And as you may, ARM is one of the major producers of chips and microprocessors. It's a major semiconductor and software design company. So actually, I took it from its Wikipedia page, I think. It seems software design also is a major line of business there. At any given time, of course, I'm sure Mr. Alper will tell us more about his successful company. At any given time, more than 180 billion devices. That's a lot of devices, from sensors to smartphones to servers run using ARM processors. Again, this is the information that I got from internet. Perhaps that number has gone up. Alper and his colleagues in ARM are improving the test processes for devices and processors used by billions of people every day. And who knows, right now, perhaps the laptop that I have or even the iPhone that I have maybe runs on ARM, right? So again, Alper can help us to know which laptop.
Yeah, it does.
So Alper has over 13 years of experience. So actually, I know Alper from Turkey because we both used to live and work in Turkey at some point in time. He has over 13 years of experience in software testing and test automation. Is especially interested in agile processes. And he has also worked as a consultant for many large companies around the world in various domains such as finance, retail, telecom, automotive. He's the founder of HIVE community, which actually I have been following that community very closely, which holds regular meetings in several cities around the world, I think including Germany and Turkey. And of course, Alper's emails and LinkedIn addresses are mentioned. Today, we are excited to have him, and I would like to thank him for accepting my invitation. He will talk about what agile changes in testing, right? So you have the traditional waterfall processes, agile and lean and more modern software development processes, covering issues such as testing frequency, tester responsibilities, communication, feedback loops, test types, test levels. So lots of interesting issues about testing. He also provides several examples from large projects that he has been involved in. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn on my screen share and pass it to Alper, and we look forward. And so hopefully the talk will be about 40 minutes or so, and then we will have some time to have some great interactive conversation afterwards. Yes. Thanks. So floor is yours, Mr. Alper.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Garousi. I mean, this is quite exciting for me because when I was doing my bachelor's degree in computer science, one day one of our lessons, our tutors invited a tester to, give a lecture in our class, and it was new to me. I didn't even know what was testing about in software, so it's exciting for me. So first of all, just to check, are you able to see the main green slide?
Yes, we can see
awesome.
that, yes.
So good morning, everyone. As Dr. Garousi said, I'm going to talk to you about agile testing today. It's mainly going to try to answer three main questions. So one is, what does agile change in testing? The second is going to be, what does it mean to build quality in? And the third one is going to be about how it changes the team structure with agile. So I'm just going to go through the slides, and I'm going to mention some points, and I'm just going to. But before that, let me explain who am I and what ARM does. As Dr. Garousi said, ARM is basically in every mobile device that you can have in your hand, like be it an Android device, be it an Apple device. the basic CPU architecture and most probably the GPU architecture is designed by ARM. ARM doesn't actually produce the chips themselves. It designs the chips and then works with vendors to have their own implementation on that basic design. So they are basically licensing their products. It can be a CPU, it can be GPUs. Now, as you might have heard that Apple laptops or Apple desktops are also moving into ARM-based CPUs. So it used to be low power mobile world. Now they're moving into high performing desktop world as well. So ARM is practically everywhere. I've just started here recently, last July or August. Before that, I was in a company called ThoughtWorks. And I've been there for more than 5.5 years. ThoughtWorks, as you might know, is very involved in the agile software development and consultancy. So I had the chance to work with many large companies around the world, and I was able to design their test strategies and help them transition from a classical waterfall world to a more agile world. So these slides are actually a summary of what we used to do there. So yeah, I'll just crack on with the slides, and I'll just I'll just try to be a little quick. Please take your notes, and let's try to leave as much time as we can for question Q&A. Just let's have a talk. Let's start with the slides and have an idea of what they are. So, what does agile testing mean? Let's start with the first question. What does agile change in testing? Now, the most obvious one is the delivery and testing frequency. Previously, in the waterfall world, we would, design an application, we would analyze it, we would implement it, we would test it, and then we would deploy. That deployment frequency would be in, I don't know, months, even in years in some projects. But now in Agile, we are expected, or we are supposed to deliver every sprint, every iteration. That can be 1 week, that can be 2 weeks. That's much more frequent. So that frequency definitely affects how we test things. We don't actually have the luxury of waiting for a long time to prepare for what we have to test, look at the analysis documents and try to come up with test cases. That's not happening anymore. We have to invent new ways and new strategies to test in an agile environment, and then automation will play a big part in this. I'll touch on that in a few slides later. The tester responsibilities are changing. What we mean by that is previously the testers were just about preparing the test cases, executing the test cases, reporting back if there is a pass or fail, reporting the bug. That was just like an at the end kind of activity that we did before we deployed into production. Now it's changing. Now testers are expected to be involved in a lot more things, being involved in the creation of the user stories, being involved in the pairing with different roles like developers, business analysts, product owners. All those roles in an agile team are supposed to be interacting with the testers as well. So, excuse me. So tester responsibilities are also changing very dramatically in agile. The communication with other roles are changing, as I just mentioned. Previously, it was just us, the application, a readily built application, some test cases if we made them before, after the analysis was done. But now we are in a much more dynamic environment, and that requires us to communicate with other roles more, interactively. So, as I said, POs, business analysts, developers, project managers, subject matter experts, customers, user experience designers. Every role that is in the team is supposed to be, communicating with the QAs. The feedback loop is very reduced now. This is very related to the first item, the delivery testing frequency as well. The feedback loop is very small. So we are actually supposed to get feedback on the working and not working things at the end previously in waterfall. Now we are actually going into, we have to get the feedback even before starting coding things. We have to get feedback on our product while coding things with unit tests and test-driven development, etc. We have to get feedback, very fast feedback, while we are testing things. So it's not like we can start testing, spend a few weeks in testing, and then produce you with a list of bugs or a list of issues that we have found. It's just like we have to find things automatically and very frequently. So the feedback loop is very different than what it used to be in waterfall. Retest strategies are changing. So previously, again, in waterfall, what we did was we started testing, we produced the bugs, we reported them back, and then the developers would, try to fix them, send them back for retest, whatever. Now it's not like that. I mean, we have to work in very small stories. We have to be able to produce value in every story that we are testing. So retesting them isn't about like going back and throwing the ball on the other side of the fence and waiting for a response. It's much more involved in Agile. So the cross-functional team is very important. We are trying to work together rather than throwing the thing back and forth to each other. We're just trying to do things at once and going forward, hand to hand. Test types are changing. We used to have just, end-to-end tests. The product would come in front of a tester. We would just play with it, find the bugs, execute our test cases, and that will be the end of it. But now we are involved in the, as I said, like the static analysis of the stories while it's in analysis. We are involved with pairing with devs so that we can, guide the devs to write the proper unit tests. We have to write API-based tests. We have to write automated GUI tests. So there's a number of different types of tests that we have to write as testers. The test levels are also very related to that. So again, as I said previously, it would be implementation, and then testing would be another step, and then every test would be end-to-end test. Now it is mostly like we have the test automation pyramid, as you might already know. The test automation pyramid tells us that most number of the tests are actually covered way before the product comes into a QA environment or an end-to-end environment. So the levels are changing. We have to adopt as testers to, accommodate those levels. The daily testing activities are changing. We are not bound to only, do whatever you have as a tester, like take the application, test it. As I said, like all the items below, we are doing many more things than only testing. Now, the main thing I want you to get from this is testing is a very small part of quality. We have to work and we have to do much more things than actually sitting down and testing the application to actually say we have a good, acceptable level of quality in our product. So just keep that in mind, write that down, like testing is a very small part of quality. And lastly, the tester capabilities are changing. Previously, there was this notion that anybody can be a tester as long as you write your test cases very openly, very structured. You can give this to anybody who can read and they can just do it. Like, I mean, everything is there. Like the steps are there, the data is there. Anybody can test. But as I've talked to you through the first 8 steps, we are doing much more than that now. So the tester capabilities have to change. Now, let's have a look at that. Now, the left side is the legacy side. It would be developers, it would be manual testers, it would be automated GUI testers, whatever. So these would be a mixed role of everybody doing different things in the waterfall world. We are trying to transition into the right side, into the automated, ideal software testing pyramid. So as you can see, the base of the pyramid is the largest part, and it's the automated unit tests. These are written by the developers, guided by us, pairing with developers and making sure most of the functionality is covered way before it comes to an integrated environment. And then we have the component test, we have the integration test, we have the API test, and only at the top of the pyramid there is like a small section of automated GUI tests. We are not looking to automate everything through the application itself or through the big GUI that makes tests very slow and very brittle. So we are trying to do many of the things in the lower levels of the pyramid. And then we have the exploratory testing sessions on the top of the pyramid so that we actually involve our human intuition into the testing process itself. Not everything will be deterministic, so we are trying to include our ingenuity here. So this is what we are trying to transition into, from the waterfall world to an ideal test pyramid world. The next sketch is also about that. So this actually describes the kind of a daily activity in an agile team. So as you can see, the testing, exploratory testing and review test structure is only 2 pieces of, how many is there? Like eight items. So there are much more things that a QA is involved in. The first one is about reviewing the story and acceptance criteria. This is about like, yeah, we have the analysis, we have the story, but do they make sense? Like, are the acceptance criteria clear enough? Are they independent? Does this story make sense? It's about scrutinizing everything as a tester. So one example that I like is this, one of the gurus in testing, James Bach, uses this analogy. Testers are kind of like the headlights on a car, right? So you are driving in the dark, you have your headlights to show you what is coming on the road. We testers are not the guardians of the quality, but we are trying to show the team what might go wrong and what might be coming in on the road so that we can take precautions to avoid a crash. So we review the story and the acceptance criteria here with the BAs, POs, whoever. We do a story kickoff with 3 amigos before the development begins, so that we are all aligned with the acceptance criteria and the story itself. And then it goes into a cycle. It goes into a cycle of we create, developers start to develop their software here. They have the dev box, and then they do a mid-story demo to QAs and BAs again. This you can call a desk check, for example. We look at the stories and acceptance criteria, said, oh, okay, it looks good. And then we take it as testers, as QAs, to exploratory testing. And then we do our, limited. We don't spend a huge amount of time to do this anymore, but we still put in our human questioning into this. And then we review our test infrastructure. Like, unit tests have been written here. As I said, like, the biggest parts of the pyramid has been written here, but we are seeing if we need to add more API tests, for example, if we need to add more UI journey tests, and so on and so forth. So this cycle goes on and on as long as we say, like, okay, we are happy with the story now. We are confident it's good enough to go to production. And then once it all completes in the team, we show this story to the product owner saying that, okay, we are happy with the story. We think that it's here. We have completed every testing, every automation that we needed, and the story is ready to go to done. Now, you have to keep in mind that in this structure, the testing and the test automation of stuff are actually the integral part of the cycle. So you cannot put a story to done before testing is done. You cannot put a story for sign off before you have actually completed the necessary automation here. So if you think about this wasn't like this in waterfall. You would have the development here, it would put the testing and then testing would start. No, testing is now a very integral part of implementation. In my ideal world, there are only 3 stages: to do or backlog, in progress, and done. So in progress includes everything that we do here: reviewing the story and acceptance criteria, implementation, testing, everything. So that's what a cross-functional team does. Yeah. So Now let's move on to what it means to be building quality in. Yeah, so the first thing is about the complete product. As I said, we don't have the luxury of having the complete product in front of ourselves anymore. So we have to be involved as testers in, the activities of business analysis, story reviews. We have to be involved in pairing with the devs while they're actually building the application and doing test-driven development. As you might already know, test-driven development is basically red, green refactor. You write the tests first, they are red. You try to pass them as writing production code to make them green, and then you refactor your tests and you refactor your specifications so that they are the minimal thing that you need. We testers are involved in that process by asking the questions of, have you considered this alternate route, or have you covered this bug in this section of the test, not in the end-to-end level or so. So we can't wait for the completed product. Every part of the system has to be good enough. So we cannot say, like, I give this example almost anytime I speak, like if you are thinking of a good quality car, you cannot think that every little piece is, somewhat good, but then when they come in together, they make a great car. It doesn't work like that. You have to be testing every single small part of your car in a good quality standard to make sure it's really a good piece of thing, working together. This basically means that every part of the process, every part of the product has to be in good quality. So we cannot say we won't do a lot of testing in the beginning, and when they all comes together, we will have a lot of tests to make sure it's good. It doesn't work like that. We have to be more, granular than that. Quality is owned by the whole team. As I said, like, we are not the gatekeepers anymore. The testers are not the people who say go or no go for the product. This is the responsibility of the whole team. I've talked about, a lot of interactions and a lot of pairings done by different roles. So they all contribute into quality. It's not just the testers who say that this is a good product. The process that we built this product is reflecting the quality of the product itself. So that's why when I say a QA, I don't like to use the term quality assurance. I use the term as a quality analyst, because I cannot assure quality. Nobody can. It's just a process that we need to implement to get to a good quality. And this, of course, is testers are not the gatekeepers, is just another counterpoint to that. So, no, sorry, not a counterpoint, a supporting point to that. So quality is owned by the whole team. Testers are not the gatekeepers. Everybody is responsible for quality in the product. We don't assure quality, we guide it, as I said. We cannot assure quality. Quality is not there is no exhaustive testing, or there is no like 100% bug-free application. There will always be bugs, and the best bugs will come from production. It's just a matter of like us being ready in our processes to detect the bugs early and then fix them early. So we can just guide the process. We as testers can't say that the application is bug-free. We can just show that it is working in a way that we have anticipated. So there are many ways that it can go wrong. We are just trying to reduce the ways that it might go wrong. We communicate with everybody for quality, and when I mean everybody, it means everybody. Like testing doesn't end after you deploy to production. We actually monitor the production systems. We actually do things like A/B testing or surveys or feedbacks to get all the things that might happen in production and detect them early. So we communicate with everybody. There used to be, for example, in Turkey, when we are doing a project with a bank, what we did was we literally took our user experience designer with us, the QAs, and we have visited a bank branch before anything was there, before any requirement was there, any implementation was there. We sat down with the branch people to see what their problems were. What's the solution that we are offering to them to make their lives easier? So we cannot just do guesswork. We have to actually solve a real problem. That's why we testers, alongside the internal roles that we have in the team, have to communicate with everyone who is involved with this product. We have to be good consultants. I don't mean the corporate consultant where you come in with a suit and a tie and then you offer some reports. You say you have to fix this, that. It's not like that. That's not how we did consultancy. It's all about trying to guide the client. This client here can be the client who is actually building the software, or guiding the process to a place where the end user, the end client, would get the most value out of the product. We testers, we QAs actually represent the customer, the end customer. So we are an integral part of the team, but we cannot think like the team as a, I call that a parent-child relation, where we say, we want to see the best size of our product. We want to make sure that it's working in some way. We testers, we QAs actually try to look that from the outside and try to see what can go wrong and how a customer and an end customer would be affected by it. So we all have to be, as testers, good consultants. And as I've been talking continuously, we have to be involved in every phase, not at the end. We don't just test, we make the product testable. That's one of the main things as well. Like, you go in, you are not just testing, but you're making sure anybody, or not anybody, like any engineer who is going to work here is able to test the product. So that makes your contributions in the acceptance criteria review very important, because if you have vague acceptance criteria which nobody can understand and nobody can test, then you're not doing your job properly. If you produce a product and you want to automate it, but it doesn't have the necessary, something like identifiers to automate it, then things are missing. So you are not just supposed to test, but make sure the product is testable. So you need to put in items or topics about that testability. And as I said previously, we represent the customer. We testers do represent the customer and no one else. There is no like, oh, works according to documentation or works per requirements. I mean, a bug is a bug. Something that will go wrong will go wrong. So you have to record it somewhere, regardless of its, if it's in the acceptance criteria or not. So yeah, we are trying to build something useful all the way. That's why I say an agile team is actually building something, giving value to the customer with every step, every deployment of the thing. Now the top side is just the old way. So you would have first build the wheels, then put the chassis in, I don't know, build the body work, and then at the end of the step something is usable. This is waterfall. This is the pure definition of waterfall. Do a lot of things previously and then big bang, you have a product. This doesn't work anymore because our environment is changing so rapidly. The competition is very fierce. You cannot wait for a long time. And by the time you start building, this requirements change at the point of war. So you have to be adapting to the needs of the market. We do it like this then. So we start with a simple skateboard, then we turn it into a small scooter, then we make it a bicycle, then a motorbike, and at the end it becomes a car. So every step of the way, the customer is able to go from point A to B with something. Now, with the time, when the time passes, their comfortability or functionality in that point A to B increases, but the need is basically satisfied with every step. So that's what we're trying to do with Agile and building quality in. Right, so that was the second question. Now let's expand that. So that was building quality in, and we have a thing called automation. So what place does automation have in it? The first thing was the first topic of this presentation was the deploy and deploy times, frequency. So we don't have time to retest everything manually. If you are running, for example, 2-week iterations or 2-week sprints in an agile environment, if you do everything manually, by the time you come to, let's say, sprint 5, you have 4 sprints of information or 4 sprints of application to test manually if you want to, make sure nothing is broken. So you can't do that. You have to be automating things so that you test only the very important and only the very critical things manually. Even if we were able to test that manually all the time, we are prone to error. It's like humans are like that. We get tunnel vision, and then we don't see things properly if we look at things continuously. Our attention degrades by repetition. So we don't think of many things about what might go wrong if we do things over and over again, and we are much slower than the machines. So automation is a very valuable asset that we have as a tester. But automation is just another tool. So it's not your end game. You are not trying to automate everything. Exploratory testing is still extremely important. Like that, you can think of some scenarios to automate before you start and while you build things, but at the end, you will discover new things that you didn't think about, and then you will discover the most valuable bugs during that process. You have to know what to automate, and you have to know when to automate. So what to automate is important. You can automate a lot of things, but do you actually get the value from that automation? Do you actually get the value from the time that you spend on that automation? That's a question that you have to ask all the time. You have to know when to automate. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to deploy something into production and then just write automation after that, because what you're doing then is like you're actually depending on your manual testing, and the things that you could have caught with automation and deterministic things are missed, and then you're catching it in the next iteration. It's already deployed. So you have to know when to automate. You have to know when to automate in unit level. You have to know when to automate on an API level. So it's all a trade-off. So I subscribe to the school of context-driven testing. So the testing cannot be the same thing across the board. You have to have a context, and you have to have a way of testing depending on that context. So yeah, these points are all about automation. This next slide is about like what it looks like in terms of deployments have. So the first one is the local single story focused localized explore testing. This is the local box. So a developer starts with this, pairs with the QAs to have a look in their local bugs, and then they deploy into a CI continuous integration system where the other products and the other functionality of the product is tested and automated tests are run, and then it's deployed into an integrated QA system, for example, where you do the exploratory testing. You have the full product in your thing, and you do your story demos here, and then you put into a staging environment or a pre-prod environment where there is the showcase done to the customer, for example. You can do the user acceptance testing, and finally you put it into production. You have all these stages that you need to jump to go to production, which means like you are doing a lot of testing and a lot of automation before you say a story is done. Done means it's ready to go to production. So yeah. And now we come to the last part, and I promise this is the last list of the slides. So the last part is about the importance of team structure in agile testing. As I touched on in a lot of points, like testers are an integral part of the team. You cannot say you have a testing team and an implementation team and an analysis team. In an agile environment, you have a cross-functional team and you have testers / QAs in it. There's no separate testing team, as I just said. We need to communicate with the team and the roles in the team frequently so that we know actually what's going on and we can give our guidance in the best practices that we are doing there. It's a learning activity. We learn from the team. We go in as testers, we don't have all the answers. Since we are not the gatekeepers, we don't have all the questions either. So what we need to do, go to the team, talk to them, always be in communication with them and learn from them where we can test, when we can test, how we can automate, where we need to automate. So that's a very important thing. Testing is a learning activity. We have to be learning all the time. We have to be physically at the same place. I know we are in the COVID lockdown situation, and I'm hoping we can return back to normal and we can return back to an actual working environment. It's very important for us to be in the same physical space. Now, I know in some big projects, it's not always possible, but it's an ideal to drive towards. So we have to be trying to be very close proximity to our other team members, and we have to be able to, raise our head, have a look around, pick someone, talk to them. Don't need to even raise a bug in Jira or any issue tracking system that you have. Just go next to them, fix something together and then retest it. So it's very important to have that physical, engagement with the team. Pick a whiteboard, write something down, explain things. It's very, very important. I know it can be, tempting to think that this remote working thing is the way to the future, but I believe it's not. It really is not. It's just, a temporary thing that we are doing in an extreme situation. So when it comes to reality, the most innovative things come when people talk to each other, when they sit next to each other, when they interact with each other. So this is not sustainable, in my opinion. Testers have to be able to see other roles we use. Again, this is a culmination of all the points before we are interacting with a lot of other roles, and we have to be aware of what their concerns are. So, for example, if a user experience designer is talking about a place of a button or the sequence of things appearing and disappearing, they have a certain view. They say that, okay, the user will have a better time interacting with the application. When an analyst is, for example, explaining to us why this requirement is needed, then they have a responsibility towards the stakeholders to, market things. So we have to be able to see different views from the team so that we prioritize our testing, so that we give, more focus on certain areas, so on and so forth. No other role is superior to the other one. I think one of the great things that Agile is trying to do is like making the team flat and putting everybody's opinion onto the table. Of course, there will be experts. Of course, there will be experienced people, and their voice will have some weight. But everybody's voice has to be heard. Everybody has to be at the same level and the same confidence level and the same safety level so that they can voice their opinions, they can get feedback on it, and it can be talked about. And last slide, this basically summarizes the previously team structure. So every role puts themselves in the center here. but it's basically everybody is interacting with everybody. So QAs are interacting with this IM is iteration manager, so it's a role in Agile. You can think of them as like facilitators or kind of a project manager maybe, but the QAs are interacting with everyone, and there are, you know, arrows across everything. So everybody is interacting with anybody, and we are trying to just get one quality product. So that's the main objective. And with that, I think I was able to leave 10 minutes for questions. Yeah, let me put some shameless advertising here. So this is our test hive groups information. Test hive is, as Dr. Garousi said, I have founded Test Hive in 2015 in Turkey, and it's a community group for testers to come together, and we have we have meetups in Stuttgart, we have meetups in Manchester, Istanbul, and even we started one in Dubai, but then our friend in Dubai moved to another country. But yeah, we have a big and very nice community in Test Hive. We just bring people together, and yeah, everything is obviously free. So, and the last slide is about my contact information. Please don't hesitate to, contact me in any medium that you can see. I will reply to you eventually for sure. And thank you very much for listening. Now I'm all up for your questions. Thank you.
Many thanks, Alper, for the great talk.
You're very welcome.
I personally enjoyed it. Yeah, but by the way, I'm gonna give the floor to our students to ask questions. Before that, yeah, but hopefully we can start a test hive branch here in Belfast in Northern Ireland.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
Yes, yeah. By the way, I think in Belfast there was this meetup group, and I attended, and even I gave a talk there a few months ago. But yeah, I think you and I hopefully will talk about that.
I mean, that would be great. So I have put the meetups on hold because we have actually done online meetups way before there was a thing called COVID-19, and they are not the same. Like, I mean, online meetups are good, but they are not the same like in-person meetups. So I'm hoping to go back to in-person meetups as soon as possible.
Yes, exactly. The amount of interaction. Okay, so let's see. We have about 78 students here with us. So let's see. Usually my students are very interactive. So let's see if you have got questions from any student. So you can put it in the chat box, or you can even turn on your camera and ask Mr. Alper any questions. Yeah, let's see.
There is a hand raised. Patricia.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. If you want to mention anything, please, yeah, you can mention.
Yeah. Hi. I'm not going to turn on my camera, but I wanted to know how did you find the transition? I'm guessing everyone was doing mainly waterfall before they switched to Agile. So how did you find the transition from going to waterfall to Agile?
I mean, it was a change. So that was back in 2008, 2009, maybe. So yeah, we practically started in a waterfall environment. I was working in a bank, and then the main change was the enormous interaction with other teams. Other members, right? Previously, I was in my bubble. I was sitting in a bubble. I mean, I was still very interactive. That's my nature. I would always go to people and ask questions rapidly, but the thing was, what was expected from me was just, sit somewhere, have your requirements, prepare your test cases, test things, produce your results, etc., etc. But with Agile, it was much more people related. What I say frequently is like the technical problems in Agile are the easiest ones. The most difficult ones are the people problems. It's all about, convincing people, talking to people, making sure that the thing is done properly. So it was a different transition, but it was very fun. I loved it immensely. It actually, I'm an introvert in my nature, but I had to be an extrovert to switch into Agile. So that was the biggest thing, people aspect of it.
Thank you very much.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the nice question. Yes, any more questions?
I see a question in the chat from Jack.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about different job roles in testing that you have seen and what the career progression is like? So basically, I defend the idea of a QA, and I don't differentiate between different roles of QA. So QAs are supposed to be, I don't believe in the difference of basically manual tester and automation tester. We are all testers. We scrutinize the product, but some of us have the automation skills. Some of us don't have those things. It's not that important. So what you have to do basically is asking questions. So you have to go to the team, you have to pair with developers. If you don't have the automation skills, you can always pick a developer and sit next to them and ask them to help you, or ask them to implement the necessary testing that you need to do. In terms of that, I don't see a too big difference in terms of like test roles as a QA. QA itself is one part of the team, so it's kind of a singular role in itself. In terms of career progression, now that's where you start to see, the difference of activities that a tester does. Some testers actually go deeper into the technical knowledge, and they start to interact more with the DevOps side of things and the deployment strategies and so on and so forth. So they become more of a technical or architect level tester, where they still keep their coding and they still keep their implementation skills, so on and so forth. The others move into a more program level testing activity, and then they start to think about the strategies, how to align different teams testing and how to align testing strategies around big organizations. So in those terms, maybe you can say two, or if you add there's one other, but I don't want to talk about the 2 or 3 different career progressions can be imagined. But in a starting point, to me, everyone is a tester. There's no difference.
Great. Yeah, lots of interesting questions. Okay,
welcome,
I think Stephen is asking an interesting question there.
Yeah. What do you think is the greatest challenge for testing in the future? Advancement in testing using machine learning AI. So that's actually a very good question, and that's the point that I love to talk about. Almost everyone thinks that with the emergence of machine learning and AI, testing will be redundant. Testing can be done by machines. So this is not a new thing. Like, this theory has been around for a long time. And when automation emerged, people all thought that, oh, testers will be redundant. We won't be we won't be needing any testers. Automation will do all. On the contrary, like, if you can actually solve the Oracle problem in machine learning and AI, which means that if you can make a machine decide what is a pass or a fail, it's not the tester that you're going to get rid of, it's the developer. Because if a machine can decide what is good or bad, or what is like correctly implemented or not correctly implemented, then you don't need any developer to implement that, because the machine has all the code and the examples that you can imagine, and they can put that in and say that, oh, okay, this is a product that's what I was looking for. But that AI and the decisions of the AI has to still be scrutinized. That's why, as QAs, I don't see machine learning or AI as a challenge. I actually, I mean, if I was a developer, I would be more concerned about the future. But I always see the scrutiny or the testing or evaluation of things being an integral part. So that's the main part of scientific theory, actually. So you cannot just write a theory or prove a hypothesis that you have and say, I'm done with it. You have to peer review it. You have to publish it. You have to let people scrutinize it. If you don't have testing, you don't have science. So it's just I'm just very confident about the future for testers. About the challenges, again, like the challenges, the increasing amount of data, the increasing amount of interaction that we have, like with billions of people, it's not something that we didn't anticipate. It's all about putting in new technologies of monitoring, of like, we used to talk about shifting left and testing early. Now we are starting to talk about shifting right and testing in production, and getting more feedback from production. So those are the big challenges, but they are good challenges to have.
Good. Yeah, I think we have another question.
Yeah.
How to deal with quickly changing requirements in Agile?
So it's basically about trade-offs, right? So when a new requirement comes in, you always start as a team to work on a certain requirement, right? If you bring something in to a sprint that you have to implement, then you will have to take something out, because the team has a certain velocity and certain amount of work that they can do, and you can't keep adding into that work, because people are people, they have their lives, they have to go home, they have to have other things. So when you have new requirements in, you have to take something out. Now, that's a natural part of the process. Like as a tester, it's not different to me than let's say a business analyst or a developer or a product owner. Like when a new requirement comes in, we create a new story or create a new issue with that requirement. We size it. We say that this is going to be 5 points or whatever. We have a full sprint. Do we have to do this now? Yes, then we have to take something out, and we see what's the least priority thing, and then we take them out. So that's how we deal with them. And the way that we are able to do that is having flexibility in our processes and our frameworks and our architecture, actually. So we don't have to rebuild or recode everything that we have. We can compartmentalize things, and then we pick and choose things that we want to put in. So that's basically how we deal with it.
Great. Yeah, lots of interesting conversations. Okay, let's see if our students have another interesting, any other questions? Okay, yeah, lots of interesting questions, I guess, from Pavan.
In your experience, do you think the industry has been slow to realize the importance of testers testing to be as important as development, if not more? If so, why do you think it has taken a long time for them to realize? Yes, I absolutely believe that. I have worked in, I've worked in Turkey, I've worked in Australia, in Germany, in the UK. I've worked with people from the US in projects. So, I mean, it's the same around the world. Like testing is always regarded as this last point thing where you can sacrifice from. The reason for taking them to realize that's a big thing, because it's just, again, I come back to the parent-child relationship. Sometimes people think that putting things into production or releasing things is just enough. Like, it's not enough. It's never been enough. Like, I mean, if you are not a one big player and you have no competitors, then it's fine. Yeah, Microsoft Windows has been able to get away with all the bugs that they have, released with their new Windows releases, because there is no other competitor. Like, yes, there is Mac, but it has a certain, group of people that it attracts to. Microsoft Windows has been the only, player in the game. Facebook, for example, has been a big only player in its field, so that it didn't care about quality that much. There was a thing about, like, companies were proud of not having testers or not having QAs in their teams. They advertised like that. But if you look at them now, you will see testing and QA positions all around their job openings. The reason is basically that profits. They thought that if we released more rapidly, we wouldn't need any kind of testing, and we could do testing in production. But as soon as they realize, okay, people are starting to turn away from our products, starting to turn away from what we have built, then they start to see, okay, what could have we done to put a good quality product in production? So I think that's basically greed in one word.
And if I may ask a follow-up question on that, well, I think I'm sure Alper knows better than me, and I think our students may know, right? So about test maturity, I guess, there are test maturity methods such as TMMI, right? SPICE or test SPICE, and many others. So my observation has been that, well, kind of companies' attitudes and thoughts about testing, I mean, it's slightly differ, right? So some companies take it very seriously, of course, given the things you mentioned, also the criticality of the products, right? For example, I know in Belfast we have, for example, companies such as Visa and other things, right? So for those critical applications such as banking application, and of course for aviation software, for automotive software, I mean, testing is, I think it's extremely important than perhaps testing a mobile, let's say a game app, right? For a mobile phone, right? If you have a game app, if it crashes or if it performs incorrectly, right? Nobody will suffer in a bad way. But so what do you think about the maturity of different companies?
I mean, that's exactly as you said, like the nature of things are different. Like you cannot say like I'm going to build a nuclear reactor and I will skip on testing because things might go wrong very quickly. Or as you said in a plane, like we are seeing these real world scenarios all the time. Like skipping on testing is dangerous, extremely dangerous in some projects and in some companies. But again, like it all comes down to how much can you get away with. So believe me, I'm a gamer, right? So one of the companies that I used to love was Bethesda. Bethesda was this amazing gaming company where it produced like amazing games like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, and they used to be quite bad. Like they used to be very bad when they first released things, but that was the way of things, and people didn't have anywhere else to go to, and they were the best. Now they have released a game called Fallout 76. It was so bad, like it practically put the question into, is this company going to be successful in the future? But basically what I'm trying to say is the market is changing very rapidly. The alternatives and the competitors are always creating new things. So if you don't evolve, you die. That's basically, if you don't survive, if you don't adapt to it. And you can't get away with like putting all the things at random and then expecting people to like it. People don't like it.
Yeah, lots of. So we have just 2 minutes left. So one more. I hope we had, I don't know, much more time. But so yes, there's another question by Christopher.
Yeah. In terms of entering the industry, how useful is having a background in programming in becoming a tester? Is it more beneficial to focus on building testing skills? So it's very useful and it's very important to have some coding and some implementation background. As I said, like I study computer science. I'm a software engineer, but I specialize in quality. It's very useful to have those skills. I don't see testing skills to be very separate from programming skills because most of them are hand-to-hand. The best thing that you can do if you want to specialize in testing is keep good track of your programming and then keep good track of like good testing practices. And then when you do actually implementation in your university degree, do try to do things like test-driven development or acceptance test-driven development, behavior-driven development, things like that. Be familiar with the testing and automation side of things, and then do follow what the best practices in testing are. So the most useful thing that you can do is like keep your implementation skills up.
Yeah, and just to add that, I guess our course is just doing that, Mr. Alper, right? So our students, I'm helping our students to learn TDD and test automation, right? So we write a bit of program and then we test it. Yeah. Okay, so. Okay, well, hopefully one final question. Yes, how important are testing certifications to make a career in testing?
Okay, this is a controversial one. I will tell you very honestly, if your company or if your school or if your whatever governing body is paying for those certifications, go get them. But if you're going to pay out of your pocket, don't do it. just invest on your skills, just invest on your, programming, your testing. There are many things that you can spend your money on that would be much more useful to you when you are getting a career. Now, it used to be the case that every major company required you to have a certain certification from a certain, body, but they are shrinking very rapidly.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to also add one thing. I don't want to do too much advertisement about our course, but I think our course pretty much covering much more. I mean, it's a really a large certificate. I mean, let's say informal certificate. So what we are learning in our course. Okay, that brings us to the end of conversations. Just to keep everything in time, we would like to thank Alper Mermer a lot. He has shared his invaluable work experience and insights.
Thank you for giving me the chance.
From industry and outside of it, inside out, as they say. And yeah, hopefully in several months from now, we'll see Alper again, hopefully in other events. And yes, I'm sure our students enjoyed your insights. So thanks a lot, Alper.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, we appreciate your talk. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garousi. I wish you a great day. And again, you can reach me anytime you want through social media or my email. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Take care.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.